This segment is sponsored by Dennis Goins of DennisGoins.com. I'm Lady Charmaine, and I'm with financial advisor Dennis Goins, and he's back today to talk about protecting yourself against cyber attacks. Mr. Goins, I think this topic is so great, so thank you for joining me on the show today. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Lady Charmaine. How are you?
Good. Now, we hear so much about cyber attacks on the internet, people hacking into your accounts and just all kinds of things. And how do we protect ourselves? Because we are now in an age where everyone is doing everything online. We're doing online payments because it's fast and convenient. But the question is, how do we protect ourselves? And I'm glad you're going to be answering that today.
Absolutely. As we all know, not a day passes by that we don't see in the newspaper or on the TV about how vulnerable a person's data is. Somebody's getting hacked here and taken advantage of. Matter of fact, 25% of Americans were cyber hacked between March 2014 and March 2015. The American Institute of CPAs announced that alarming discovery in April and publishing the results of the survey by the Harris poll. And that's very disturbing. But the insistence of pre-retirees being victimized is even greater. 34% of adults aged 55 to 64 reported having their data stolen or compromised within that period. So pre-retirees are really targeted and become victimized by the cyber attack. And also small businesses are commonly victimized. Obviously, we've heard about the Targets, the Sonys, the Home Depots, and the Wells Fargo. But they're big companies. They will survive. But a small business has limited IT resources. Matter of fact, Symantec, which is a big software security company, says that 30% of all targeted cyber attacks occur against firms employing fewer than 250 workers. And so this obviously says that the average small business that gets hacked has a 60% chance of closing its doors within 6 months. That's according to the National Cybersecurity Alliance. So these small businesses basically are really impacted more so than the big corporations. And it's very, very detrimental to these small businesses. Hackers will not put your household out of business, but they can steal the assets within your checking account, your workplace retirement plan, and second. And of course, we've read and heard several stories about that happening. They can also take your Social Security number, your email address, annual income data, and more, and sell it and retain it to hurt you in the future. And that's a big business within itself, taking that information and reselling it internationally. And of course, cyber attacks within the financial world, especially frightening. Banks and brokerage accounts are respectively insured by the FDIC and the SIPC, which are government agencies. Yet that insurance only protects a customer or client in case of an institutional failure. It does not cover cyber theft. So that's important to know with these checking accounts, these brokerage accounts. It does not cover you for cyber theft. How can you strengthen your online defense against these cyber thieves? One way to do that is to do the two-factor authentication, and they use the acronym 2FS. And what does that mean is corporations are starting to realize that the vulnerability of using a username and password combination is not really that good. So given that there are so many usernames that are derivatives of real names, and given that many passwords are still minimally convenient, a hacker can access such accounts with relative ease. If a company installs another security factor beyond that username password combination, such as a voice, print, audio ID, or a one-time numeric code texted to your phone to permit access, hacking an account becomes much harder. And this two-factor authentication may become the norm in the future. So they're trying to do a lot of things to kind of prevent that and make it easy. For example, a lot of Americans use simple passwords, sometimes at multiple websites. I mean, there's some people that have actually used the word password as a password. And obviously that can be easily hacked. And obviously there's software that can basically help you with that. High net worth households are finding Norton Identity Theft, which Identity Safe, RoboForm, LastPass, Dashlane. There are also some of the software apps you can use that help you with super strong word passwords. So the stronger passwords are very important here to help you kind of prevent yourself from these cyber attacks. Obviously, you got to basically not fall prey to these classic mistakes of in a hotel where there's no such thing as a free lunch, so to speak. And when you have free Wi-Fi at these coffee shops or airports or even in hotels, that makes yourself easy prey for being someone to tap into your computer. So you have to be very careful of that, and also opening, as we all know, these mysterious emails. So will cybersecurity improve in the coming years? With this QFF standard, it may make it much harder to pull off. Although other defenses are being touted, some with more merit than others. A fingerprint as a password sounds good, but has a crippling drawback. You can change your password, but try changing your fingerprint. So these are some of the things that they're trying to do. Some consumers are getting new EMV equipped credit and debit cards. That's a new microchip type credit card that banks are using. It makes it a little bit harder for it to be duplicated and whatever. But the true cyber security may be prove elusive, but personal vigilance, like again, we talk about common sense things as far as your passwords, not leaving your computers or your phones access to where you can be tapped into on these free Wi-Fi. It's pretty much a good step as far as better defenses against cyber attacks. So it's a big problem. A lot of people are getting victims to it, and as we talked about a little bit before, a lot of this is happening internationally as well as domestically. So we have to be very vigilant and very counterintuitive to basically deal with these cyber attacks happening to us.
So is there a place, if you are hacked or attacked by cyberspace or someone, of course, you know what I'm trying to say, how can you, once you find out, the only thing you can do is change your password, what can you do besides change your password?
Well, again, there's several things that can happen. First of all, it depends on where you got attacked. The best thing to do is an ounce, as my grandmother used to say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. A lot of software security programs for your phone, your computers are very important, so you can't have someone to intercede there, particularly with your phone. A lot of people do it for computers, but they have software packages to protect your phone from being hacked. And the key thing is the passwords. People are using simple passwords, and once a person gets into that, they can, if they know your name, they know your age or something along that line. A lot of people use their name and their age as a password. Well, that's pretty simple. I mean, you can, and their username is some instance of their name. Mm-hmm. You gotta make some changes along that line and do that. And you should change your password often. I mean, and the only person that knows my bank password is me. And that's important to know because, you can never tell what's going to happen. I mean, I wouldn't, some people have their kids to go to the store to get stuff at the store, and they give them their credit card, which is their debit card, and what do they give them? They give them the password. So the kid knows the password. I mean, kids can, a lot of those things are happening that's causing a problem. You go to a restaurant and you don't keep an eye on your credit card. I mean, you got to always keep and be vigilant and do those simple things because you go into a club. This is very, very happens a lot. You go to a nightclub and you open a tab. Well, you don't know where that credit card is when you open that tab.
Oh, that is so true.
Those are some of because these people. I mean, not all, but some. It's easy. It's what they call low hanging fruit. So you got to keep an eye on that credit card and once they get that strip at the back, that can be duplicated. And but no, I always watch my credit card. Now on airplanes, you don't even some airplanes, you basically put it in the system and you keep an eye on it right there. So that's what you got to do. You got to be vigilant, keep an eye on your information, have password, basically change your passwords and make them very difficult to do. And then there's software packages that will store all your passwords. Don't keep the same password for each website. Those are some of the things you can do.
That is so good. Thank you so much, Mr. Goins, for sharing that with us. Now, if somebody wanted to talk to you, they want to reach you, where can they find you?
They can reach me on my website at www.dennisgoins.com. They can reach me on my email address, dennis@dennisgoins.com, and I'm on LinkedIn at Dennis Goins and Associates and Facebook at Dennis Goins and Associates.
Okay.
So we're out there.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the show, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
Very good. Thank you very much, Lady Charmaine.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening. If you would like to learn more about financial investments, contact Dennis Goins at dennisgoins.com.